ahead and start with this latest development on the Wuhan lab leak theory. Now the Department of Energy is saying that, it's very likely that, in fact, the coronavirus came from the Wuhan lab. And that's dismissing the misinformation that we've been told over the course of the last 3 years or so. Then you've got Dr. Fauci, evidence that essentially he was trying to, disprove that theory throughout the last 3 years of this pandemic. Your thoughts on why he would do that?
Well, my thoughts are, if he had something to do with funding the virus that came out of the lab, then I think he would do everything in his power to make sure that there's something that says, no, it didn't come out of that lab. Look, it came out of Wuhan, and there happens to be an internationally known virology lab there in Wuhan. Duh. Yeah, that's the most likely source of where this virus came from. But for all these years now, no, that's crazy. It's not crazy. It's actually, I actually think that's where it came from. Most Americans probably think that's where it came from. And now we're finding out that more and more of our agencies are saying, yeah, that's where it came from.
Yeah. And the NIH, of course, denies that U.S. funds went to Wuhan for gain-of-function research. And there was that fiery exchange that we all remember between Dr. Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci, where he kept skirting around it because of the definition of how he was interpreting gain-of-function research. But the NIH did give money to an organization that collaborated with that Wuhan lab. It was $600,000. And it was a program that Trump pulled in 2020. When he sits up there in front of Congress and tries to tweak the definitions and skirt around the issue, he was essentially the mouthpiece on the virus for the last 2.5 years, right? Americans trusted him. And now we're finding out that a lot of what he was telling us was not true.
That's correct. And we should have known something was up as soon as he said that masks were ineffective. And then said, wait, masks are effective. We should have known better. And we should have started to actually look at what he was saying and what the experts were saying a little bit more closely. There were some people that did. Look, our governor here used data. He didn't really listen to those experts from Washington, but used the data that he was looking at, and we were compiling here in Florida to determine how he was going to fight the virus here in Florida. And other governors did the same thing. It turns out that they were right, following the data and not following so much those experts from Washington.
Yeah. And this is a bigger issue, right? Because when we think about the pandemic and the impact it had, not just on this country, but across the globe, right? The economies that it destroyed or at least stalled, the lives that were lost, the learning that was lost for our children, the mental health problems, the lockdowns. I could go on and on, Congressman. So when you really think about the impact of this and look at it with respect to how China is viewing the world in the bigger picture, right? Looking essentially to dominate and to take over as the world's largest superpower, you have to ask yourself why this administration is dancing around and tiptoeing around when it comes to these issues regarding China.
Well, because they've been politicized. Instead of following the science, which is really what we should be doing, now that the science is coming out and saying, hey, this is probably where it came from. These are the steps that we should have taken at the time. Maybe masks were not effective. Hey, maybe the vaccine has some side effects, and we shouldn't be forcing young people to take the vaccine. The administration, it's okay to say, hey, we made a mistake. We were following our experts and say we made a mistake. They're not going to do that. Unfortunately, government has this knack for never admitting that it's wrong. And, hey, government is just people. And people make mistakes all the time, and so that's the reason why if they admit they made a mistake, then, oh my God, nobody's ever going to trust us again. No, I'll trust you more if you actually admit to your mistakes, because I know, hey, at least they're honest, and when they make a mistake, they'll own up to it, and we can move on.
Right.
They won't do that.
And it was also okay at the time to say, we just don't know. We don't have all the answers. And we've got to do more, to figure it out and be honest with the American people, because this hit everybody by surprise. But I'm also looking at this number, 7.2%. That's how much China's increasing its military spending. And I'm watching China support Russia in its war and its offensive against Ukraine, and its relations with the United States in the wake of the Chinese spy balloon. And I'm asking myself if it's time, and so many people in the business community are asking, if it's time to try to really, in earnest, decouple from China because of the threat that it poses.
No, the time is yesterday. We need to decouple from China. The threat that they pose is the biggest threat in my lifetime to this country and to the world, and I'm talking about the free world. And China has made, it's no secret, that by 2049 they want to be the dominant economic power in the world, they want to be the dominant military power in the world, and they want to be the dominant ideological power in the world, and their ideology is Marxism.
Yeah.
And look, we tried our best to try to change them and change the course of Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party. We've only strengthened them, made them more powerful. They're more powerful economically. And so, yeah, the time to decouple is yesterday. Not today, yesterday. And I'm happy and I'm very glad that at least in the committee that I serve on, the China Select Committee on competition with the Chinese Communist Party, we have bipartisan support for that. Now, it's easier said than done. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be without pain, but we have to take those steps right now.
Yeah, and while I have you, I just want to get your take on this Wall Street Journal piece reporting on the Chinese spy cranes in this country, potentially posing a threat here, as I mentioned before, in the wake of that Chinese spy balloon coming down as well. A lot of people are looking at China and saying, you know, because the administration appears weak to President Xi, he is taking advantage of this moment. He is seizing this moment, and that there could be some trouble coming down the pike.
Yeah, and so look, I've got two bills to deal with the spy cranes, something that actually was brought to my attention when I was the mayor of Miami-Dade County by my port people. They said that, look, the software that's installed in these cranes that they bought, you know, from China, because China produces like 80% of all the cranes around the world. They knew what was being shipped, where it's being shipped around the world. Also, some of that spyware could actually get into the port systems, and the Chinese could use it in a malicious way. So that's one bill which says all U.S. ports need to eliminate all this foreign software from their cranes, and then there's another bill that gives grants to ports that are acquiring cranes to buy cranes that are not built by a foreign adversary, that being China, because we need to have a different source. Can you imagine if the Chinese said to us, "Hey, we're not going to supply you any spare parts anymore"? 70% of the cranes that we use for maritime commerce come from China. Yeah. And that's very, very dangerous.
It's a serious problem. Congressman Carlos Gimenez, great to see you this evening. Thank you so much.
Good seeing you too.
All right, well, President Biden